Brett Favre started 297 consecutive regular season games at the most punishing position in football, won 3 straight NFL MVP awards, led the Green Bay Packers to a Super Bowl title, and built one of the most durable careers the NFL has ever seen. The absurd part is that he never looked like the kind of quarterback who should have lasted that long. He played too recklessly, trusted his arm too much, took too many hits, and carried the kind of rough-edged football personality that usually burns bright and burns out fast. Instead, Brett Favre became the NFL's ultimate Iron Man. That story did not begin in some polished quarterback pipeline. It began in Mississippi. Favre was born on October 10, 1969 in Gulfport and grew up in the small town of Kiln, where football was less about Polish and more about toughness, rhythm, and surviving contact. At Hancock North Central High School, he played for his father, Irvin Favre, the team's head coach. That detail matters because Brett Favre's rise was never just about arm talent. It was about environment. He grew up in a football household where the game was part of the routine, where discipline came from family, and where physicality was normal. That small-town setting helped build the exact traits that later made him unforgettable: stubbornness, competitiveness, confidence, and a refusal to back down. Favre did not come out of Mississippi looking like the cleanest quarterback prospect in America. He was not the smooth, carefully built future star who made scouts feel comfortable. The arm jumped out immediately. The daring was obvious. The Polish was not. He played like someone who believed every window was open if he threw the ball hard enough. Sometimes that kind of confidence looks like genius. Sometimes it looks like a mistake waiting to happen. With Favre, it often looked like both at once. That tension followed him from the beginning and never really left. It is also a big reason this story works. He was not built like a textbook quarterback. He was built like a football gambler, with country toughness in his bloodstream. Southern Mississippi became the place where that raw ability turned into real proof. Favre was productive there. He made plays, showed leadership, and proved he could carry an offense. But even in college, the story was not one of total certainty. He was good enough to demand attention, but not polished enough to erase every doubt. He still did not feel like a guaranteed NFL franchise savior, and that made his rise more interesting. He had to keep proving things instead of being handed a grand football destiny. Then life hit him hard before the NFL ever could. In July 1990, Favre was in a serious car accident that left him with major internal injuries and required surgery to remove part of his small intestine. For most quarterbacks, that kind of trauma would have introduced caution or fear. For Brett Favre, it became one of the earliest signs that his relationship with pain was different. He returned to the field far sooner than most people would have expected and kept moving forward like the game was still waiting for him. Long before the NFL tested his durability, Favre had already shown something rare. He could absorb damage, recover, and keep going. When the 1991 NFL Draft arrived, Favre was selected in the second round by the Atlanta Falcons with the 33rd overall pick. That tells you exactly how the league saw him. He was respected but not worshipped, talented but not viewed as untouchable. And his time in Atlanta did not look like the start of football immortality. He attempted just 4 passes as a rookie, completed none, and was sacked once. No breakout, no dramatic launch, no sign that a future legend had arrived. The Falcons had a strong arm on the roster, but they did not yet have Brett Favre as the football world would come to know him. History almost missed him there. That is what makes the 1992 trade to Green Bay so important. It was not just a change of teams. It was the moment the story found the right stage. Green Bay did not sand down Favre's rough edges. It let them breathe. The arm became central. The confidence became contagious. The risk-taking became part of the show. And the toughness that had been built over years started turning into something visible. The first real spark came in September 1992 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Don Majkowski got hurt. Favre came in. At first, he looked exactly like skeptics expected: wild, messy, unstable. Then the game flipped. He threw the winning touchdown pass to Kitrick Taylor, and Lambeau Field felt the electricity immediately. That sequence became the perfect Brett Favre introduction. Chaos first, then belief, then a throw that changed everything. It was not neat. It was not textbook. It was Brett Favre. As the 1990s unfolded, Favre stopped feeling like a quarterback and started feeling like a force. He played with an emotional volume that made every game feel larger. He celebrated hard, failed loudly, recovered quickly, and kept attacking as if the previous mistake only made the next throw more important. Fans did not just watch Brett Favre for results. They watched him because he felt alive. Every snap carried possibility. Every game carried the sense that something brilliant, reckless, or unforgettable might happen next. That is the heart of the story. Not just the touchdowns, not just the wins, not even just the MVPs. The heart of the story is the streak. Brett Favre started 297 consecutive regular season games at quarterback. That number almost sounds fake when you stop and think about what the position demands. Quarterbacks touch the ball on every play. They absorb blindside hits, shoulder trauma, ankle problems, back pain, concussions, and the weekly wear of carrying an offense. Careers break under that pressure all the time. Favre made availability part of his identity. And what makes that streak so much more incredible is the way he played. He was not some careful operator hiding from danger. He was a risk-taking gunslinger who welcomed pressure, extended plays, trusted his arm in tight spaces, and put himself in situations that should have made long-term durability less likely, not more. That is what turns the streak from a stat into a myth. It was not quiet endurance. It was violent endurance. It was a record built by a man who seemed to invite the hardest version of football and still came back the next week ready to do it again. That is where the Mississippi roots connect directly to the legend. The country kid part of the story is not decorative. It explains everything. Brett Favre's greatness was never based on elegance. It was based on comfort with discomfort. Comfort with getting hit, comfort with making mistakes and firing again, comfort with the emotional messiness of football. He did not play like a machine. He played like a man who believed pain was part of the price, and the game was still worth it. Then came the resume that turned durability into history. From 1995 through 1997, Favre won 3 consecutive NFL MVP awards, joining one of the rarest groups a quarterback can enter. That run mattered because it proved he was not just surviving. He was dominating. In the 1996 season, he threw 39 touchdown passes, led Green Bay to a 13-3 record, and helped deliver Super Bowl XIX against the New England Patriots. That title completed the rise. Favre was no longer just the wildly durable quarterback with a huge arm and impossible confidence. He was the champion at the center of one of the NFL's most iconic franchises. That is what made his story feel so complete. The streak alone would have made him unforgettable. Fans always remember the athlete who refuses to leave the field. But Brett Favre paired that toughness with elite performance. He made the durability matter. He turned the pain tolerance into winning. He turned the physical resilience into MVP seasons. He turned the reckless confidence into one of the defining quarterback careers of his era. By the time his career was finished, the honors stacked high enough to match the mythology. Super Bowl champion, 3-time MVP, 11-time Pro Bowler, and eventually a Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee in 2016. But the real reason Brett Favre still stands out goes beyond awards and records. He became a symbol of something football fans instantly understand. He represented the version of the game that feels dangerous, emotional, and stubbornly human. He was flawed, he was risky, he could frustrate you and amaze you in the same quarter. But he never felt manufactured. He felt like football in its rawest form, a quarterback who carried the game's violence and chaos right into the center of his identity. That is why Iron Man fits him so perfectly. Not because he was robotic, but because he was the opposite. He was emotional and unpredictable and alive in a way that made his durability even harder to believe. He should have broken down. He should have faded earlier. He should have been one of those players people describe with a sentence like, "If only he had stayed healthy." Instead, he built the most famous consecutive start streak the position had ever seen and made his stubbornness into one of the sport's great legacies. Mississippi built the toughness. Southern Miss proved the arm was real. Atlanta barely knew what it had. Green Bay turned chaos into identity. The streak turned identity into myth. And the MVPs and Super Bowl turned that myth into history. Brett Favre did not become an NFL icon because he was the safest quarterback or the cleanest prospect. He became an icon because the roughest parts of his football personality somehow became the foundation of one of the most durable careers the game has ever known. That is how a Mississippi country kid became the NFL's ultimate Iron Man.